This is the Resonance Model podcast, where you're going to learn how to optimize your identity, leverage, and flow to create a moment-to-moment connection to your entrepreneurial vision, which will allow you to grow and scale your business with ease and spaciousness and fun. I'm your host, Christine O'Connell, coach for neurodivergent visionary entrepreneurs who want to express those visions boldly. And I believe that entrepreneurship is a game of energy efficiency. The only question is how you can convert your time, energy, and expertise into money without compromising your health, freedom, or impact. With each episode, I'm going to show you how to grow without force so that you can accelerate your journey by 3 to 5 years. If you're ready to scale your business with ease while unlocking the greatest version of yourself, then this is the podcast for you. All right, so I'm here with Daniela Tilbrook. She is a founder of Spiritual Survivors Coaching. This is an organization directing its efforts towards those who are survivors of childhood trauma and abuse. And I'm super excited to be here with Daniela. We've been friends now in real life for almost a year after having met each other in Austin last May. And we had been ping-ponging a little bit before then, but she is a true source of inspiration for me in a world that is very complex, nuanced. This is a person who shows up with a lot of bravery and is excited to step into her vision despite her vision requiring a high degree of courage. So I'm just super glad that you're here. Thanks for coming, and welcome.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, good to see you. And it was lovely to meet you in person in Austin. So it's always great to meet people in person when you've kind of got to know them online. So yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And we've had a lot of fun since then. Daniela was a person who was in a first iteration of my group, Mental Fitness Revolution, which is really geared towards entrepreneurs who want to get extreme levels of clarity and connection to their vision and then operationalize how to make that happen in real time. And it was a joy having Daniela. In fact, it was our conversations that we had in Austin that really gave me the idea for the group. That's the amount of inspiration that I have gotten just from knowing Daniela over the last year. So this is a huge opportunity and treat just to, put this out into the world, a conversation where we explore how we connect deeply to our vision and how we develop the courage we need to step into that vision, and then how we learn the tactics and the skills and the strategies to actually make it happen.
But thanks, Christine. That's very kind. I just remember getting on I was on the coach. We sat next to each other on the coach, and I told you half my life story. So I hope I didn't bore you to death. But yeah, just on the way to the Spartan race. But yeah, it was super interesting, and I loved being part of your mental fitness, the first iteration of it, and it just really helped me to kind of clarify my own vision. And also, someone that struggled with depression and sort of mental health issues, it just felt really specific to what I kind of needed. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you actually, because it really. And then soon after that, Spiritual Survivors was born. So yeah, it sounds like we both helped each other on our journeys.
We have, and the tentative title of this podcast is the resonance model. So what I'm playfully doing is creating spaces, programs, experiences, and providing strategies and tactics for folks who want to create higher and higher degrees of resonance as they create their vision and their business. And so you being here for call number one is a statement.
That's really kind. Thank you. And I wanted to just really thank you for all the help. It's kind of, and what really resonated with me when you kind of said that when we do difficult things, it really helps our mental health. And that, yeah, I just really took that away and then started doing those hard things, because often I'd get kind of caught up in overthinking, and then wasn't really doing anything. Then I'd sink lower and lower. But I've really taken on board the, do the stuff, and then you sort of, yeah, you just feel so good, and you're going in you're kind of moving your life forward rather than kind of ruminating about the past.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs with any level of anxiety or low confidence are actually some of our biggest opportunities for change, bringing us closer to a vision where 51% of the world is flourishing by 2051, which is the goal of positive psychology and adopted by Heroic, the organization that brought us together. I think allowing somebody to close the gap around that mental health and then close the gap around the entrepreneurial vision that they have, it's like a double whammy right there. There's so much potential that has the possibility to be captured. So entrepreneurs who have any kind of challenges around anxiety, low confidence, um, corny, but you are like that hidden gem. That's one of the most important things that I think I've really come to the conclusion of in the last couple of years, is that entrepreneurs with those types of struggles who have these amazing visions are some of the biggest opportunities for catalyzing the change that we need to see in this world. But how about should we start at the beginning or start at the end? What would feel most useful for you?
We could start at the beginning.
All right, cool. So, what was life like when, and I hope you'll bring in some relevant context so that our listeners can understand the background of how your vision was shaped, but what was life like before you got your arms around your vision? And what were some of the things that were challenging and frustrating?
I think I always knew deep down what I wanted to do, and part of it was the book, and it was really tricky because when people would ask what the book was about, I would say, oh, it's about confidence, about self-esteem, it's about bullying at work. But I mean, these are all kind of themes throughout the book, but the real book was like healing childhood trauma, and lots of people didn't know about my history, so I was kind of writing this book called Not My Shame, still not quite owning it, still kind of being in the shadows. So for me, it's been a real internal journey to have the confidence to kind of, yeah, to really own my story. And there was always that thing as well, like, how am I going to promote a book if I'm not willing to own my own story? And then, I was thinking, oh, maybe I could publish it under someone else's name. And then it's like, well, you can't, well, you could, but if a book, Not My Shame, it feels like I need to put my name on it. And yeah, just to kind of really own it. And it's, the subject matter, childhood sexual abuse. It's a really, it's a difficult thing to get over. It's a difficult thing to admit. It's a very difficult thing to admit so publicly that it happened to you. You feel quite vulnerable. But with time, I've got the confidence. And also, if you want to help other people, you can't really help them if you haven't, if you're still kind of hiding out in the shadows, because I know how difficult it is. And that was the inspiration for the spiritual survivors, because I thought, well, if I can save anyone, some time or, help them to navigate this really, really tricky, it's a very tricky minefield, and you're trying to overcome and, trying to get over it. And, it's a long journey, and it feels like I can help people along that journey to kind of reclaim their lives.
If you don't mind
Yeah, cool.
sharing with us, because in some of the pre-calls that we've had, you've talked about this idea of what it means to help somebody avoid 20 years of struggle, suffering that you personally went through without guidance and without, the North Star. What do you see as the potential for somebody who, works with you, reads the book, and has the opportunity to a certain extent, circumvent that 20-year process?
I mean, it's, it is a difficult thing to kind of alchemize, I guess. But, and, healing looks different for, different people, and some modalities might work for some people, some might not. So I've tried to cover, what helped me throughout the book, and, perhaps a bit of a pick and mix model where people could kind of try different things, but really to be open, open to healing modalities, and, the voices in their head. And, I've done a lot of internal family systems work as well, and sort of kind of recognized all those parts of me, the wounded parts, the inner child that's, really sad and, went through a lot. But it's kind of, yeah, incorporating like all of me and all of my parts, and, trying different things. But it's kind of, and it's the thing to almost just say, it's not your shame, it never was your shame. But if you're kind of still stuck in the shame, it can be really difficult to kind of see that. It took me 17 years to tell someone that wasn't a mental health professional, or someone that was in my family, like someone externally. And I think that's when my healing really started, because it was that real clear boundary, like, this is so wrong, especially if it happens within families. You're in really tricky territory. That's your family, and you're in the bottle with them. We were in the, you don't, yeah, it's a tricky thing to kind of navigate away from. I'm not sure I've answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely you have. I think where I just want to really highlight the potentiality that I see in the service that you're providing for this world is that you, through painstaking effort, personal development, exploring modalities, developing greater and greater levels of willingness to healing and action, hard earned 20 years. And so when I think about the potential of gifting that wisdom to somebody else who may be early on that journey, what that means for their life trajectory. Because I think in the nature of the work that we try to do, it's to help people optimize and save time, energy, heartache, loss, money. And so what I see you doing is gifting the world such a huge opportunity to benefit from that wisdom.
And I think also sort of working with someone that's traveled similar roads to you, our stories are different, but it could be really comforting in a way, because there's a lot of things you don't have to say, and you find that in survivors groups, and communities. And it's kind of, people understand the pain, they understand how difficult it was, but without almost having to explain. So I think there's something about just having traveled similar roads can be really, really helpful, like, to people. And when I've reached out for help, because a lot of my healing was done kind of by myself. It's only in recent times, within the last couple of years, I joined a support group and have met other survivors, and that has been just so super helpful. And then I didn't feel so alone, and it wasn't just like me by myself kind of dealing with this. So yeah, the kind of community is really, really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of helping folks understand, because I know this has been a 20-year journey, what's though the last 6 months looked like for you in terms of changes, iterations, breakthroughs, insights that you've had?
I think one of the biggest things was when I posted a couple of blog posts on Medium, and then my friend said, "Oh, are you going to share it on your personal Facebook page?" And I was like, "Eek." But for me, that was huge, because that was a public disclosure to all the people in my life that are kind of, that don't know, and there might be more people on the peripheries of your life. So that was huge, and like, nothing bad happened. Um, yeah, that was a really huge step. And then I think after that, I felt I could really own the story. I've put posts on, sort of documenting a little bit of my book journey. Just had a clean draft ready yesterday, and I put it on, the socials. Not my shame, overcoming. God, what's my subtitle? Overcoming childhood trauma. No, healing, sorry, healing childhood trauma. So yeah, not my shame, healing childhood trauma. And I just took a picture of the screen from the computer and just posted it on my socials. And like for me, that is absolutely huge, considering like I spent years, well, for years I did, I was able to block it out for 10 years before even remembering. But even when I did remember, it was something that very, very few people knew. So it feels like it's been such a, yeah, it feels amazing now that I can actually, first of all, write a book and then sort of promote the book and just, I guess, just own my story. Like this happened to me. It's lost its, yes, it's lost the shame of it all, which feels so liberating. Oh, and one other thing, like this, there are just no more secrets in my life, and that feels so like amazing. I don't even tell white lies anymore. I just, yeah, just want it all. And that feels like so freeing, and you can just be yourself.
Yeah, I think what's really ringing out for me is that the healing power of transparency. And on the other side of that coin, if you're unable to have that level of transparency, it's like going for a really long hike with a backpack full of rocks. It's just so much for us to be able to, well, staying with the hiking metaphor, how enjoyable will that hike be? How what will our level of flourishing be on that hike if those rocks are weighing us down? And so I'm just really excited and energized by the connection to transparency and how that's allowing you to have a greater sense of connection to who you are and what you're here to do.
Yeah, it's just a real relief, and yeah, I feel like I can just be myself, and yeah, without, I don't know, trying to please people or just having sort of healthy boundaries, which I never learned as a child. So yeah, I mean that feels really great, and it feels like I can finally step into the person that I was meant to be. Yeah, that feels really cool.
And tell us a little bit more about what that person, that Daniela, sees as their vision.
So yeah, I think, well, yeah, I mean, I've just recently kind of set up the spiritual survivors, and to build a community around people that have survived and that might have that an interesting kind of spirituality as well, kind of trying to make meaning out of the pain and to really start to look forward, because a lot, and it's not a replacement for therapy, and it all has its place, but I think it's when it's time that you're ready to look forward. A lot of the therapies I've had, you're kind of talking about the past, you're processing the past. If you're doing like EMDR, there's a lot of past focus, but it's quite nice when you start to switch that. And what I'd like with the coaching is to more, because a couple of my clients, they still have sort of therapy, but we're looking at starting to move your life forward. So I think that's the vision, yeah, to help survivors move forward with their lives.
Yeah.
Oh, to throw the rocks out the bag.
I remember a conversation we had a couple of months back. And we were just kind of going back and forth, and you really connected in the moment to just this reality that your vision felt like something that could change the world. And I'm curious how and if that has clarified or iterated over the last couple of months since we had that conversation, because it was a beautiful moment to observe. I will tell you that.
Uh, I guess I think it's that feeling of if you can really sort of own your power, I guess. And I think, and that's really difficult to do, like, that inner voice that's sort of saying, oh, who are you to do this? And, and I think, and it's, yeah, it can be quite tricky to sort of be bold, but I don't know. And it's that feeling of that you can help, like you really can help others by your kind of inspiration. And I've been inspired by other people. Um, but yeah, I would love to be that person that could sort of inspire others to, really claim their lives and yeah, get the tools and reprogram your mind and kind of that you don't have to. And I think that's what's really exciting. You don't have to be stuck with how you were. I used to think that you just, change is hard, but we're not stuck with, confidence is something you can build, like assertiveness you can build, all these things that you can, they're not sort of stuck. And I think that's where it's really exciting, and you can, step through the fear and yeah, just kind of move your life forward.
Yeah, and all that sounds really good. And I think everybody wants more of that. One of the things that jumped out in just talking previously was you said that you have done more deep work in the last year than you have in your entire life.
Well, we're
Um,
only in February, but
I,
yes, no.
and I guess what I was thinking was 2024. It always gets weird at the change of the year, but the deep work that you've been doing. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the deep work connects you, clarifies you in terms of the vision.
I've always struggled with deep work, and when I was writing the book, there's someone locally that's also writing a book, and I'd arranged to meet him in the library, and I always have these hacks to get me there, to get me to do stuff. And so it's taken a really long time just to kind of just sit down and do the work. And yeah, so this year actually I've just and I've set proper deadlines, and I think that really helped, because otherwise the book could have gone on for years. So it was like, oh, so the book comes out on the 27th of June, which is PTSD Awareness Day. So that felt like a really good day to kind of publish the book. But because I've got proper deadlines, I had a deadline yesterday, get a clean draft ready. We've got then a week, we're going to send it to the beta readers. They've got 3 weeks, they're going to look at it, incorporate any, suggestions, edits. But it's very like structured. And that feels really good. And it doesn't feel, it's not too tight a deadline that I'm getting overwhelmed. It just feels like a really manageable, but something that's pushing me enough that I had to do the work. It was the 12th of February, so I've been into the library. I've been sort of, yeah, just working away. And that feels really good, because like I don't know what happened, but I finally am able to do deep work after struggling with that for years. And realizing that's the only way. You just have to go deep. You can't do the shallow work if you're just, if you want to achieve sort of bigger things.
Yeah, and I think it's always really important to remember, like, it's a marriage between, for lack of better terms, hard skills and soft skills. The soft skills of meditation, developing the vision, seeing it clearly, and then the hard skills of what are the tactics and the strategies that, we can deploy to create efficiency as we iterate towards that vision. Um, and I just want to really make that explicit, because I think in the type of work that I like to do with folks, it might seem very soft skills focused, but there is a element of how do we intentionally choose the skills we need to efficiently create the vision such that we create an economic engine around our energy, rather than creating a system that as it grows it becomes overly complex and very unenjoyable to run. And so I'm just curious, in terms of your deep work, do you have any particular frames around it that are allowing you to do it in a way where you can connect with a sense of flow and a sense of meaning and a sense of that vision?
I guess I'm just trying to think. I'm not sure actually. If I'm honest, I'm not sure kind of what's changed this year. I know the deadline definitely helped, but I think maybe the practice of doing it, and then, and I think that's what's really helped with my mental health as well. Like once I'd done it a few times, I could see, it was all sort of coming together. I got myself a laptop towards the end of the last year, because I was writing on a Bluetooth keyboard on my phone, so I didn't have the best tools, but it wasn't too bad when I was just getting words onto the page. But obviously, when you start editing and things, you kind of need the tools. So yeah, it was great to have a laptop, and then I felt it was like that up like a quantum leap of like tools. I like, oh, suddenly got a nice laptop. So that sort of helped. But I think there was something about once you've done it a few times and then celebrating. I was kind of celebrating, yes, I did it. Um, and now I think it's, yeah, that domino effect as well. I've kind of like, oh my goodness, I've done loads of deep work. I've like hit the deadline and I can see, yeah, and suddenly it's all kind of coming together and I can see the book. And I don't know, it's kind of, or maybe it's just taken a long time to kind of get the momentum, because it's like climbing up, it's, you know, it's obviously a big project, like climbing up that mountain, and I just kept going. Sometimes it felt like I wasn't really making any progress, but like now it kind of feels that, yeah, that, and actually when sometimes you forget to look back as well, you're like, oh, actually I've climbed quite a lot of this mountain.
I love that you mentioned quantum leap. That's a frame that I like a lot. And no shade thrown towards, hard work and reps. But I love the metaphor of um, the fly that is just trying to escape a room and running perpetually, perpetually, perpetually into a window using the same strategies, tactics that it's used to, when 10 feet away there's a door open. And a small shift in perspective would allow that fly to make a quantum leap and, fly out that door. Have there been
And
any moments for you where you've really reoriented and then kind of pursued the action?
I love that. I love that. And the fly. I can really relate. Yeah, I could so relate to that one. Um, I think it was self. I think a lot of this has been to do with self-belief. And I think I've had to really work on that. And it is, you know, the inner critic that's kind of, you know, that will never kind of go away. But I think I suddenly had that deep, something changed where I had that deep, deep belief that I could do this, um, which feels like amazing. But yeah, I'm not, I think it just sort of gradually happened. Like, you know, when you're sort of chipping away, I don't think you quite know when the moment was. Is it the stonecutter analogy? You know, when you're like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, suddenly like this year, as the year turned, or maybe realizing how quick a year passes and you still haven't completed your manuscript. And it's like, this is the year it's going to be. But this time it felt like I was serious. I was like, we're going to get this out into the world.
Awesome. And one other area that I was curious, just because it's a particular interest to me, that being flow state.
Mm.
Have you had experiences this year that have brought you any additional insights or connection to flow state?
I don't know if this helps, but when I'm if I'm somewhere public, I've just put on my headphones, which are like noise cancelling headphones, and I don't know if it's signaling something to my brain. I kind of put, it's almost like I put them on. I'm not listening to anything, and it's kind of right, and it's almost that, ooh, we're in deep work. We're sort of in deep work mode, and it's I do struggle to work at home. I'm not sure quite why. I think I like being somewhere public around people, so I kind of feel like I'm part of something. I think and it's been super hard for me because I quite, you know, I'm quite sociable, and you know, doing all this solo work's been quite hard for me. But there was something about being in a public place, but also having that kind of, and then people don't really disturb you either, because you know, loads of people kind of know you locally, but yeah, having the headphones, and it's all, and then I'll kind of get into that state, and I think that kind of helped. It might sound a bit strange, but the headphones kind of, yeah, helped me to, right, oh, this is like deep work time.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't sound strange. I think if we look at flow state, there's often a lot of rituals and procedures that, quote unquote, seem strange, but they are the exact protocols that people use to trigger that in themselves.
Oh, and
Um,
coffee.
coffee and noise canceling headphones are
Oh
the cues
yes,
for
just
you.
a really nice cup of coffee. Yes, just kind of it, that really feels like a treat to me. Yeah, I've got my coffee, my headphones, I've got my new laptop. And then I just felt much more professional. Like before, I was in the coffee shop with this Bluetooth keyboard. Uh, yeah, but I mean, it was fine for that stage. But you know, sometimes you do need to upgrade your tools.
Yeah, I'm like really impressed that you were writing a book with
Oh,
those tools. I
oh,
mean, that's
Christine, I just remembered something. And before that, oh my goodness, so a lot of it I'd written by hand. which wasn't the most efficient because then you've got to kind of, obviously transfer it to print. You can dictate, but obviously you can sort of type it as well. But there was something that I felt that when I wrote by hand, I felt my writing was better. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. But as I got a bit more experience, I thought it just wasn't the most effective way of doing it. And then I got much more used to typing. But I think that's getting, the reps in and the practicing. You have to write a lot really, and for your writing to get better and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I having not written a book, so this is just me
Yes.
sort of guessing. Um, I'm thinking that there is a sort of threshold of words that needs to be created. The way I'm thinking of it is like meditation, right? So when I meditate, there's about 10 minutes of noise at the beginning where I'm just kind of clearing that out, before I can actually tap into that insight that's unique to me and, that I'm creating ideally a kind of channel or conduit to bottle and then bring into the world in terms of a vision. But it seems like writing would be similar to meditating in a way. There's a certain amount of noise that you gotta um, edit out before you can get to the real meat of the issue. I don't know if that seems like a good, you tell me as an author.
Uh, yeah, I guess I don't know. I suppose it's just the practice. Yeah, I mean, there could be a little bit of that as well, kind of. And then sometimes, yeah, when you kind of get started, then it kind of gets better as I don't know, when you turn on a tap and if it's all like horrible water to begin with, and then it all
Hmm.
kind of flows out,
Yeah,
hopefully.
that's kind of what I'm envisioning. But again, not an author at this current particular time. Um, the last area that I wanted to just check to see, because we didn't get to this in the pre-call, now that I'm thinking of it, is looking forward. What's next for you?
Um, I did. So I had an idea for a second book, which was going to be called Wisdom for My Girls. I don't know if you know that I had breast cancer back in 2017.
I
Um,
didn't know that. No.
um, I mean, yeah, I'm all okay now, but there was an idea for a book where I get this kind of cancer diagnosis. And I mean, at the time, my children were really young, they were 1 and 3. Um, and the idea was like, just in case I didn't make it, that I wrote this book kind of wisdom for them for their life yeah, that was kind of one of my ideas. But I do think if I ever did write another book, it wouldn't take so long because the idea, if I'm honest, I've been trying to write a book for 20 years. The idea came from when I was bullied at work 20 years ago. I was like, oh, I wanted to write a book about bullying at work, and it never quite happened. And over the years, there's this voice that kept saying, write a book, write a book. And I kept trying to ignore the voice, but it kept coming back. So I kind of had to go with it. So that was super interesting. But I do think if I ever were to write another book, it wouldn't take 20 years. Really.
Well, it sounds like there's been an upgrade in terms of your ability to answer the call quickly. Was that fair?
Yeah, and I guess I don't know. I've always kind of it's the I am the golden Buddha thing where so much we look outside of ourselves, where it really if we chip away that we are all the golden Buddhas and we're all the heroes of our own journey, and it's to kind of have the courage to do that journey because yeah, a lot of times, I just refuse the call. But the problem with that is you get this kind of low level. I think that you're not following your, destiny or whatever you want to call it. And I think it nags at you. And I think also that's where your mental health problems also, I'm not saying they come from that, but it definitely contributes to mental health issues as well. Um, and I kind of so every time I keep moving forward and doing these things, like I feel so much better in myself. And I'm very prone to kind of depression, so I have to really keep a check on it. But the great antidote, which you taught me actually, was to do the hard things. So yeah, thanks, Christine. I'm doing the
Yeah.
hard stuff.
And on that point, just to kind of provide information, doing the hard things does trigger a change in our neurochemical profile,
Mm,
that um, it's very easy for those of us, myself included, prone to I'll call neurodiverse reactions to the world, uh, to become habituated to a certain neurochemical profile that is associated with anxiety or depression. And when we seek to create new moods to step into, there can be some resistance from our brain simply because it's become habituated to a certain neurochemical profile. But the fact remains that when we do the hard things, we trigger a cascade of very helpful neurochemistry that can help dislodge us from some of those um, places, moods, conditions that create that sense of stuckness. And so while it just sounds really good to do hard things, there are also some serious neurochemical benefits that are triggered by our willingness to actually go out and do those things. So I'm super thrilled that you're experiencing that, because for me that was also a profound moment of understanding that no, we aren't robots, so we can't necessarily, flip a switch and trigger 100% of the time the neurochemistry that we want, but we have more of an influence over it than we think we do. And this, is above and beyond even eating right and exercising and all of those things that produce more advantageous neurochemistry. There are things we can do above and beyond that to influence our neurochemistry. So super glad that that has been helpful in you creating a year of epicness, writing a book, starting a new organization. In terms of the spiritual survivors, are you taking new folks on right now? What's there?
Yeah, I've started with my first two clients because I set it up at the end of last year, and I had a coaching call today, and I just really felt like this is the work I'm meant to be doing. It felt so aligned, and it was so great to make it happen. And it is just taking the actions. I wanted to kind of reach out to my survivors group to sort of say, of my idea, I'm going to set this up. Would anyone like any coaching? And I kind of put it off. And then in December, I sent the text and I got people kind of messaging me. So I took the action. And I think sometimes, yeah, it's just taking those actions, yeah, not putting them off. And then when you do them, things happen. And yeah, so yes, yes, I am taking on new clients as well. So this is kind of, yeah, I've just kind of niched down in my coaching. I feel this is the area that I can really serve people.
And what's it feel like when you realize that this is the work you're supposed to be doing? What does it feel like?
I kind of not, I mean, it'll never take away all the pain, but it kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I think it's because you talked about the onlyness statement,
Yeah.
because it just feels like what can, I don't know, this feels so unique to my experience, and it feels like I've been following this kind of path, and then did the coaching, and I don't know, it's all kind of falling into place. Because originally when I did the coach program, I was kind of doing it for personal development, and I was like, oh, I could become a coach. Like I really enjoyed it, and this feels like the next step to then kind of niche down. And it's, yeah, it feels really nice that I can, sort of, yeah, really help people on their own journeys. But yeah, it feels wonderful. It doesn't take away some of the pain, but it kind of, I think, yeah, is it turning the pain into purpose? Swallow the what is it? Swallow the
The frog. And also, so what arises for me is this is another example of how when we put ourselves in situations where we can do the work that we're designed and here to do, we trigger a neurochemical cascade of advantageous neurotransmitters, which again influences our ability not only to help other people, but to help our own brains on a
yeah,
day-to-day basis. So there's a huge advantage to engineering situations where we're doing the work we're here to do, especially if you struggle on any level with anxiety, low confidence, depression. Because when you find yourself in the situation where you're here doing the work you're supposed to do, your brain is going to react and it's going to light up in such a wonderful way. Um, so yeah, just kind of, if I could put a finer point on it, it helps you serve the world in the way you're supposed to be served, but it also helps your brain get the neurochemical diet that it needs to combat some of the things that in a very rapidly evolving world, we're all plagued by the anxiety, the depression. In entrepreneurship, things are changing all the time, so there's very little certainty to grab
Yeah.
onto. Um, so on some levels, having that anxiety, depression is natural in the face of um, such a huge amount of uncertainty that is just what we are blessed to live in right now.
But
What?
yeah, sorry, Chrissy, go on.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's such a, super, super interesting point. And yeah, I guess now you kind of said it in that way, but it is so true. And I've spent so much of my life depressed, months and months at a time. There was a time sort of going back 20 years where I just couldn't get out of bed, was crying for months, like really just like so low. But the low level stuff kind of carried on even when I did get kind of better. And yeah, just big parts of my life I've been depressed. And it's such a it's obviously not where you want to stay, and it's kind of but yeah, it's just really difficult to kind of get yourself out of it. And I think especially when you're prone to kind of relapses, and that's why I just love the idea of just kind of doing the hard things, keep moving forward. um yeah, and then just kind of just keep going. I mean, obviously we're all going to have like bad days, but that's so much more preferable to that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know what I mean, that life of just sadness and just ruminating, and then spiraling down. And oh, and then you just you just hit the sugar, go stay up late, all the other, sort of start losing those kind of well-being habits as well. But I just, yeah, it's not a place I want to kind of keep going back to.
Yeah, absolutely. And full disclosure, I've had those months of my life too, and that's why this work is super important to me. How can we construct a business and a vision uh, that has a bunch of funnels architected into it that basically shoot us into the work that we're here to do, so that we can give our brain that neurochemistry that it is seeking, and then repeat, repeat, repeat.
Yeah, I love that idea. I'm really going to sort of take that away with me. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is, I guess when you understand, I know we all go through different things, but when you understand what it's like to be depressed, I think you've been there, like you've kind of, yeah, you've been, I don't know, and I think that's where you can have the real empathy for people, because you just understand of just how hard it is. And yeah.
Yeah, I think our ability to develop extreme levels of empathy for people um, in a world that I think if we can zoom way out, the universe is always seeking to bring us into greater and greater levels of intimacy with ourselves.
Hmm.
And so, if we can create greater and greater levels of empathy and intimacy with the folks that we serve, we're bringing ourselves into a more natural alignment with how the universe just tends to operate. And again, this creates a funnel where we have a greater level of ease and spaciousness as we do the hard things, because we're aligning ourselves in an intelligent way with how the universe works, and in this case, greater empathy and greater intimacy.
And yeah, and the other thing that I have noticed when I have kind of disclosed my story to people, and then often the other person would kind of say something that had kind of happened to them, and I thought it is sort of healing and sharing, and kind of it's the common sort of humanity of that we've all had really difficult things happen to us. But sometimes it's nice just to be heard and for someone, to listen and just kind of acknowledge where you've been and just kind of be there for you.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that we get to be that for each other. Um, if there are folks who are listening to the message that you have and the story that you have, and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can email me at danielatilbrook@gmail.com, and there's one L in Daniela and one L in Tilbrook.
Perfect. Easier to remember. I just want to make sure that we provide a way for folks to connect with you in the event that they're listening and have a deep sense of resonance with what you have explored, and then taken all of the steps and gathered all of the experience to now create something that has the opportunity to serve others. You have truly alchemized the challenges that you've experienced into something that can now be described as beautiful. And that's a real if we wanted to put a like picture of alchemy in the dictionary, this would be a great visual.
Oh,
um, so I'm really just thrilled that you've taken all of the small and big steps that I imagine were in front of you on this path. Um, so if anyone is resonating with how Danielle is approaching this, please reach out to her. She's a wonderful person. Um,
oh,
it
thank
looks like
you.
you're have something you want to share, so I'll pass it over to you.
I was also going to say, I'm also Daniela Tilbrook, or at Instagram, so it's just at Daniela Tilbrook. But what I wanted to mention were how, um, so we have sort of a mutual kind of friend, Anthony Smith, who's part of the heroic community. And I remember a couple of years back, he was on a call, really kind of owning his trauma, and I could see all the work he's done, and he was such an example to me. And I think it kind of planted that seed, and there was no kind of shame, he had no shame behind his story, and that just really inspired me. And I don't know, I think sometimes when people are like that, it can really sort of help you on your own journey. So I think my hope was by kind of sharing my story that other people could do the same. So yeah, just a shout out to Anthony Smith.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on that shout out. We're thinking of you, Anthony, and always inspired by your tenacious willingness to do the work, to show up in the way you do. I wish I had his handle at memory so everyone could check out his Instagram so you could see a visual of how powerfully he shows up just on social media, much less calls or real life interaction. It's an amazing um, thing to observe and to witness, and it's difficult not to be have that leave an impression on you.
But yeah, it really planted a massive seed actually. And I was like, wow. And, Christine, like yourself, you've really kind of stepped into your role as well. And I think that gives confidence. Yeah, actually, yeah. Just shout out to you as well, because I don't know, you just kind of like you see someone else doing it, and you're like, oh wow, like I could do that. And I think I think that's super inspiring as well. When you sort of, and it's great that this kind of came from our conversations in kind of Austin, that you sort of went off and kind of created that. So yeah, I feel honored that I was part of that journey.
Yeah, and so my whole model for this really has been to create greater and greater levels of resonance as I go. Um, so when we talk about Anthony or we talk about all of us hanging out in Austin, how can we capture as much of that resonance that was created in all those awesome moments and then take action? Because um, I think that might be the missing piece for a lot of folks is they feel that intense resonance, but they don't have a systematic way to take action on that. And that's going to be unique to the individual and what they're here to do, what specific things, action items, lists, strategies, and tactics might make sense for them. Point being, I love to see how efficiently I can capture those moments of inspiration and resonance and do something meaningful with them. Hence the resonance model that I was speaking of earlier. So I'm super glad that it comes through. And I think probably one of the highlights of last year for me was just having the opportunity to create that level of resonance with you and everyone else in Austin. So I guess my message for everybody is, how can you systematize capturing that resonance, those moments of resonance? And these can be these tiny moments, inflection points in your day where you feel that. Do you have a system to capitalize on that, or do you let them kind of come and go? Because that's where we can really truly develop energy from the work we're doing. And then we are not just left to relying solely on sleeping and eating correctly and exercising to generate energy. If we can create energy through our interactions and take action on them, we literally become energized as we create our business and our vision. So that's what gets me really excited.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. But because I do notice when, I suppose when I am in flow or that higher energy, I don't know, even the interactions I have with people, I just feel much sort of happier, and then things happen. And because I also do personal training, and yesterday I signed up a new client. But I think part of that was because I was in that kind of higher vibration, maybe, or higher energy, kind of, because I'm doing the work, and I think it kind of has that, knock-on effect with that kind of other things.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I'm super glad to hear that you translated it into action. I think the big question in my mind for myself and almost anybody that I come across is how we can develop and cultivate that so that we are in that state daily, for hours and hours at a time, such that our decision making becomes a lot easier because we have clarity on where we're truly shooting to go, and we have that connection moment to moment. Our ability to take action becomes a lot easier because we are energized, not just from our eating, moving, and sleeping correctly, but literally from the work that we're doing and the neurochemical cascade that's occurring because we're doing that work. And it just gets really exciting the more you extrapolate that thinking, because then you find yourself writing emails filled with joy as you're doing it, right? And so that's my what I'm shooting for with anyone I work with, is to get them so honed in on that when they sense it, they become curious, and that curiosity leads them to developing greater skill in maintaining that resonance moment to moment, day to day.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
I love it. This is essentially what I'm designing my entire vision in business around, is optimized for flow. And so I think a relevant question for anybody is, what are you optimizing for? And it could be money, it could be something else, but ask yourself, what are you optimizing for? Because the system that you engineer is going to give you perfectly reliable results based on what you engineer it for. So in other words, if you engineer it for stress, complexity, it's going to give you stress and complexity. So I definitely not prescriptive of what anyone should engineer their visions for, but it seems really important that everyone know what they're optimizing for.
Yeah, no, that I love that idea. I'm gonna have a good think about that myself.
Well, I know it's late where you are. So glad that we got to get together, and I hope that everyone listening found some gems in here that they can take with them in the coming days. Again, Daniela, if you don't mind sharing your best way to connect with you in the event that folks want to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, sort of on email, it's Daniela Tilbrook at gmail.com. And Daniela and Tilbrook both just have one L in it. Or also, I'm at Daniela Tilbrook on Instagram
Awesome.
as well. My
And
website does need updating, so I won't give you. I mean, I'm danielatilbrook.com, but I mean that's my kind of personal training website. But yeah, looking to kind of update my spiritual survivors, so that's kind of on the to-do list as well. Just yeah, upgrade all the website.
awesome. And what's your handle on Heroic Social? Just to
At,
plug
at,
Heroic
at Daniela.
at Daniela.
So
Perfect.
yeah, Daniela.
All right. So find Daniela there. Well worth the wisdom and the hard-earned experience, which she's doing an amazing job putting into action in 2025. So I hope we can actually swing back around at the end of the year and just see what's happened since then, because I'm excited to have watched the metamorphosis since last May. So let's put a point on it to get together and do this again at the end of the year.
Yeah, that would be great. And also, Christine, I turned 50 this year in October. And I think there was something about, I didn't want to kind of carry sort of my childhood issues into my 50s. It suddenly, there was a point where I have to move on, I have to forgive, I have to alchemize this because otherwise, another decade, how quickly the time goes, another decade could slip into sort of depression and stress and why me and victimhood. And I don't know, there is something I think about that kind of going into that kind of next decade of my life just made me feel really determined. Yeah, just to really move forward with my life. Yeah, and I really feel that that's what I'm doing now, which it feels so yeah great and liberating, and yeah, I sort of feel free, and yeah, I feel like I'm on the right path.
Oh, I'm super glad I've gotten to be a bystander in seeing this evolution. And just from a person to person point of view, it's everybody accessing that within themselves is their birthright. And so, as your friend, I'm so glad that you have it. Um, because I know, while it might be our birthright, I know how elusive it can be. And
Mm.
so it's just joyful for me to know that it's something that you're experiencing.
But yeah, it does. It's been a very long journey, but yeah, it feels great to have that kind of clear direction. So, but yes, but thanks so much for your time, Christine,
Yeah,
and
thanks
your
for
help.
coming. Keep us posted on how it develops. I look forward to seeing the updates on your social accounts as the book comes out in just a few months, PTSD Awareness Day. So that's going to be exciting. So if anyone is interested in just keeping tabs on that whole progress, this is just a little bit more incentive to connect with Daniela as that unfolds in the next couple months.
And I guess it's also to kind of raise awareness that obviously, people know about PTSD, but it's the complex PTSD that people get from like childhood trauma, which can be, particularly difficult to treat, especially, if something happened over a longer period of time. So it's kind of, yeah, and I think the other thing is in my own way, to kind of destigmatize childhood sexual abuse because, it is a difficult subject. So, yeah, it kind of felt that was a nice day to kind of publish the book. So yeah, that was kind of part of the aim of the book, my way of destigmatizing this, and my hope that I can help others that have unfortunately had to go through similar experiences.
Yeah, stigma is something that I think, just from the perspective of watching this evolve for you, you placing the release of the book on that day makes total sense to me. In from the perspective of alchemizing the
Mm.
challenges, this is It's a certain type of celebration. It's not the celebration of, New Year's Eve, but it's a celebration of a person owning who they are and then taking the next step to not only own that, but to be able to support others in eventually owning that same challenge for themselves. And I guess kind of going back to where we started, like when I think of somebody having the opportunity to, in some ways, by working with you, circumvent at least some of the 20 years of challenge that I know you went through, what that means for their ability to serve in the world in their own special and unique way, without the wisdom that you might be able to help them digest, they might not have the opportunity to serve the world in that way, in whatever that means for them. So I'm excited to know that there will be an easy resource that folks can pick up in the form of a book to start to get to understand how you've approached this.
Yeah. But yeah, I look forward to getting it out in the world.
Me too. I look forward to reading it. Definitely will be one of the first buyers.
Oh, woo, I've got a sale.
You do. I'm pre-sold. Don't even worry about me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Christine. And yeah, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Absolutely. I look forward to when we talk next. And until then, love and soul force.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you found value, please consider leaving a 5-star review to allow the show to reach more people. Or share this episode via your social media channels. If you're an entrepreneur and want support in scaling your business without force, email me at Christine@alchemizecoach.com.